in the NBA or around the NBA. And what you said there, I think people forget, 11-time All-Star, how good he was in Toronto before he got... Yeah. Before he got to Miami, like he had a team where his second best player was Jarrett Jack. He never had the supporting cast around him, but he was outstanding, and then took a third-tier role when he got to the Heat, helped them win titles.
He sacrificed more of his game than Dwayne Wade did or LeBron in that. They don't win those two championships if he doesn't develop a deep outside, even a three-point shot that became very, very effective in those last couple years he was there in Miami. But a great teammate. No team does it better, too, as far as taking care of their former players than the Miami Heat.
100%. And when you say he developed the outside shot, also, he was one of the keys that unlocked those great Heat defenses that helped them win those championships, because he could switch on everybody. Underrated player. Great, great player.
All right, time now for some stories to start your morning. The NBA last night, Giannis and the Bucks taking on and taking out the Rockets. The Bucks defense was the big star last night. Sure, the Greek Freak had 19 points and 14 boards, but the 108-94 win was due in large part to shutting down James Harden. He had just 23 points on 26 shots. Milwaukee now all but locking up the 1 seed in the East. Nick, is it time to consider the Bucks as a real threat to the Warriors and not just, oh, they're the best team in the East?
I think at this point we have to. There's too much of the season gone, and they continue to check every box of what history says it takes to be a real championship contender. They have the #2 offense in basketball. They have the #1 defense in basketball. So they're top 2 in both. No one else is top 5 in both. They either have the MVP or the second MVP. Like, it's going to be a coin flip. Right now, Giannis is probably in the lead. They have an excellent, proven coach. They have depth. And now the depth has been questioned by injury, and that might be the one thing that's knocked them down as of late, is the litany of injuries they're dealing with. They're going to win 60-plus games. They have the best record at home of any team in basketball, to go along with the best record overall of any team in basketball. And one other thing that I looked at when I was kind of diving into it this morning, they're 49-13 when not playing a back-to-back. So they're 6-5 on the year on a back-to-back, but there are no back-to-backs in the NBA playoffs. So they have the best record in the NBA overall, but when they're not playing a back-to-back, they are on a even greater win pace than the one they're on right now. So they check every box, and what they show...
Except experience.
Except experience. Absolutely right. No, 100%. Now, they made the playoffs last year, but they didn't advance around. The coach brings them the experience, one would hope. But you're right. They don't have the history of, we made it the first round, we then made it to the third round, then we made the NBA Finals. But one could argue, you look around the rest of the Eastern Conference, Philly doesn't have any real experience. Toronto's got nothing but bad experience. Boston has experience from last year, but not with Kyrie there. So there's not a team in the East that I would say trumps them greatly in the experience category. NBA history says this is the type of team that contends for a title, and last night, to me, they showed it again.
Yeah, last night was a good example for America to be able to see that's how they play basketball. Now, Coach Bud, he's made a tremendous impact on the team. So not only are they talented, the style for which they're playing, number in the top 5 offensively, top 5 defensively, you're going to be one of the elite teams. How they've done it, style points, you have to be very impressed with the number of games that they've won over 10 points. In the NBA, man, these games are so close. To have that type of margin, the only team we've seen that in recent history was Golden State. So the thing is, to me, the question is not about the East now. Now it's about Golden State. And if Golden State was hitting on all cylinders coming into the playoffs, this wouldn't be a real question. But there are question marks, one being their overall experience. If Pat Riley took over the Miami Heat today, you know something, we'd be like, man, Pat Riley's got a lot of experience, but that experience don't transfer into the players.
Sure.
Because they're not on the court. So there is no experience basically in the East, a greater experience on any team, Philadelphia, Boston, Toronto, than what they have. So they'll be okay. But if they were in the finals with the Golden State, that would become a problem. I believe they match up with Golden State well. I believe they'll be healthier once they get to that point. They'll be getting a couple of those players coming back. And I believe that 2 key players, Eric Bledsoe and their center, Brook Lopez. And their ability to be able to put ball pressure with Bledsoe, because that's the difference in last night's game. They had 3/4 pressure on Houston almost the whole game. In the backcourt, they were pressuring them. And then they played up on Harden, the defensive strategy, and they dared them to shoot the intermediate shot. So they took the analytics of Houston, We're going to shoot the 3R layups, and they used it against them. They dared them to shoot the intermediate game, and they weren't able to be able to capitalize on the defensive game plan. But I think they are the real best threat against Golden State because their overall length, their ability to play defense, and how they rely on each other in overall ball movement, I think is really special.
And if you in this clip we're running, and you can see it in every single highlight, they are on James Harden's left hip. Every single time they're on his left hip.
Yeah, but there's a lot of other NBA teams that are playing on his left hip. But what they're doing is they're forcing him off the three-point line. They're actually playing halfway on the side of him, which no one has had that style.
And so they're funneling him on his hip, and then what they have in all these highlights is 7-footer Brook Lopez, who's not a great defender, but he's long, and Giannis. The way the Bucks play their defense is they put Giannis on the opposing team's worst offensive player, so he can play essentially free safety. And so Giannis will then collapse down on a lot of these plays. It's why they have been the best defense in basketball all year. They forced Harden into floater after floater. Now, you're not going to go up against James Harden. If you play the Warriors, it's a different type of problem you have because there's not one specific guy that you must take out of the equation.
One thing that I love how Coach Bud, though, they played Houston before. They played them again. They only played them 2 times. But they adjusted because they don't have a lot of intel on Harden. But for them to be able to adjust to put in that specific game plan, it looked like a playoff game. It was like, man, they've been scouting this team for a couple weeks. For them to know their sets and to be able to play the way they did, I thought that you should look at that and been like, wow, that was pretty special how they did that.
Let me just ask you this because this was such a storyline coming into this game, talking about 2 potential MVP candidates matching up against each other. Chris Paul said after the game, one game does not an MVP make. How do you look at these 2 now coming out of it? Because neither Giannis nor Harden had great games last night.
Listen, so CP3, a little history there. The year he came closest to winning the MVP, the year arguably should have, he played Kobe in the final week of the season. Kobe was excellent. The Lakers won. Kobe wins the MVP barely over CP3. So, and I think he feels like that happened to him. Like there was one game at the end of the year that swayed it. Neither guy was great last night. So if neither guy is great, it's about holding serve. Giannis was the favorite, whether he should have been or not. I said I thought it was a coin flip going into last night. In my eyes, it's still a coin flip, but Giannis right now checks so many of the boxes. They're going to win 60 games, top 2 offense, top 2 defense. He might win Defensive Player of the Year. Harden was going to need to do what we said yesterday he might do, which is 40 points, road win, upset him to change the paradigm. I don't think he did enough to change the paradigm.
Truth of the matter, I'm watching the game. Yes, both of these guys deserve the MVP. But the best guy on the court last night was Eric Bledsoe. He's the best player in the game last night. So if they negate each other based on, then neither one of them had a great game, you have to go to the team. What Milwaukee is doing as a team, the number of games they won, over 10 points, best overall record, best player on the best team. Giannis wins out on last night when neither player were able to send the message because he's on the better basketball team.
And C said it again, 43rd time last night they won a game by double digits. 43 double-digit wins on the season for the Bucks.
All right, you heard it here first. Eric Bledsoe is your MVP this year. That was out of nowhere. Coming up, Sean Payton gets his wish, but is it too little too late? It's ahead on First Things First. The Rockets. The Bucks defense was the big star last night. Sure, the Greek Freak had 19 points and 14 boards, but the 108-94 win was due in large part to shutting down James Harden. He had just 23 points on 26 shots. Milwaukee now all but locking up the 1 seed in the East. Nick, is it time to consider the Bucks as a real threat to the Warriors and not just, they're the best team in the East?
I think at this point we have to. There's too much of the season gone, and they continue to check every box of what history says it takes to be a real championship contender. They have the number 2 offense in basketball. They have the number 1 defense in basketball. So they're top 2 in both. No one else is top 5 in both. They either have the MVP or the second MVP, like it's going to be a coin flip right now.